The golden girl of Italian cinema was Sophia Loren, stunning, talented, and adored by countless people. However, there is a story she keeps hidden beneath her stunning exterior. On the surface, the film in which she appeared in 1960 was perfect. It was praised by critics. The crowd went wild. To great success. However, Sophia did not find the memory pleasant. On set, something happened that will never be forgotten by her. Concerning a co-worker of hers, anything. Years down the road, she'd admit that she was kicking herself for being a part of that film. Now the real question is, what happened on set? Early career and life. Sophia Loren has evolved into the stunning movie actress that the world knows today. Sofia Costanza Brigida Villani Ciccolone had a troubled upbringing after being born on September 20th, 1934, in Rome, Italy. Romilda, her mother, was a piano teacher who had acting aspirations of her own. Sophia and Maria were raised without a consistent father figure or financial support because their father, Riccardo, who was of aristocratic lineage but never wed Romilda, was also their paternal grandfather. Among Sophia's limited encounters with her father, the only one occurring in 1976, was when he was near death. She may have forgiven him, but the fact that he left their family haunted her. Even after she became renowned, Sophia paid him so Maria, her sister, could legally use his surname, Ciccolone. Sophia and her mother and sister spent their childhood in Pozzuoli, not far from Naples. They endured immense hardship during World War II. A mark on Sophia's chin was caused by shrapnel that she caught in the air when her village was bombarded multiple times. Romilda played the piano, Maria sang, and Sophia served customers as her grandma opened a little bar in their house. The American troops loved visiting the site. Sophia started entering beauty pageants after the war ended. In the age of 15, she won a garment constructed from discarded curtains as a consolation prize in her first beauty contest. She was able to take her mother's dream of becoming an actress to Rome with the money she won from that triumph. She won the title of Miss Elegantia after competing in Miss Italia 1950, because of which she became more well-known in the film industry. Beginning with tiny parts, Sophia even made an appearance as an extra in the 1951 film Quo Vadis. She immersed herself in acting classes and kept pushing herself until she landed her breakthrough part. After a producer named Carlo Pani shaped her appearance and gave her the moniker Sophia Loren, she became famous around the world. Even though she and Ponti had a rocky relationship, she eventually married him. During the 50s and 60s, Sophia's career really took off. She shared the stage with legendary actors like Marlon Brando, Cary Grant, and Clark Gable. In 1960, she had her breakout role in the moving wartime drama Two Women. She played a risky role, but she won an Oscar, the first ever given to an actress for a film made in a language other than English. She continued her acting career with smash hits including El Cid, The Millionaires, and Marriage, Italian Style. She became one of the most beloved actors in the world and won numerous accolades for her work. Sophia slowed down in her twilight years to focus on her family, although she was never truly absent from television. Even in her 80s and 90s, she continued to surprise fans with her perfumes, novels, television appearances, and film comebacks. Even though she is 90 years old, Sophia Loren shows no signs of slowing down or declining any further parts in 2024. An absolute icon. My life in general. In addition to being an iconic figure in film, Sophia Loren is a fascinating human being. Loren has lived in some breathtaking places all around the world, and he is a devoted Roman Catholic. Since 2006, Geneva, Switzerland has been her principal place of residence. However, though, she has owned some truly remarkable properties over her life. She is the proud owner of a California ranch, a Manhattan apartment, a Rome villa, and a condo in sunny South Florida. She also loves football and cheers for her hometown club, SSC Napoli. She made the funny promise to strip if her team ever reached the league finals in 2007, when she was 72 years old. At the same time, she was even included on the Pirelli calendar, proving that she has never let her age dampen her self-assurance or her willingness to take risks. While appearing as a guest on Desert Island Discs, a radio show on BBC Radio 4, Loren shared some interesting stories from his life in 2021. As for her one luxury item she would bring to a desert island, she picked a pizza oven. Two of her favorite songs were Clair de Lune by Debussy and I've Got You Under My Skin by Ella Fitzgerald. Additionally, she shared a humorous anecdote about how Richard Burton once became furious with her for cheating on Scrabble. After suffering serious injuries in a fall at her Swiss home in September 2023, Sophia had to undergo emergency hip and leg surgeries. Thankfully, she was able to avoid any problems. When discussing love, one must not forget Sophia's narrative. The famous film producer Carlo Pani was 37 years old when she met him, and she was 15 years old. They were having an affair, but it was a stormy one because Pani was still married and divorce was illegal in Italy back then. They got married in Mexico through proxy in 1957, but they had to cancel the marriage in 1962 to avoid legal complications. Following their naturalization as French nationals, they tied the knot in 1966. Their romance continued until Ponte's death in 2007. Carlo Jr. was born in 1968 and Eduardo in 1973, their kids from their relationship. At present, Sophia is also quite involved in the lives of her 4 grandkids. In addition to Steven Spielberg and Drew Barrymore, she is one of the godparents of Drew Barrymore. Maria, her sister, too had a dramatic love affair. She married Romano Mussolini, son of Italy's former dictator, and had 2 children, one of whom was the politician Alessandro Mussolini. There has been no dull moment in Sophia's life, what with her rise to international fame, her family, and her football career. Both on and off-screen, Sophia Loren and Cary Grant were the most talked-about couple in late 1950s Hollywood. They first crossed paths in 1957 while shooting The Pride and the Passion. Loren was a young Hollywood star in her early 20s, while Grant was a seasoned actor in his 50s and a revered legend in the industry. They had an intense on-set romance despite Grant's marriage and the age gap between them. Betsy Drake, Grant's wife and fellow actor, had actually penned the screenplay for Houseboat before he was cast in it. Everything changed when he had an affair with Loren. He had planned to co-star with his wife. After Grant's insistence, the script was revised to feature Loren instead of Drake. Drake was so irritated that he flat-out refused to give her credit. When production for Houseboat began in 1958, tensions were already high. Even before The Pride and Passion ended, Loren ended her affair with Grant. Carlo Pani had been there for her since she was a youngster, and now she was torn between her feelings for Grant and him. Loren made a different decision. Even though Grant was still hoping to continue the relationship, she stuck close to Pani. Making that choice had not been simple. Loren has spoken about the difficult and perplexing time in subsequent interviews. Despite her feelings for Grant, she could never abandon Ponte, who had sacrificed so much for her. Conflicts involving the law and litigation. Sophia Loren was gorgeous and glamorous, but she was also no stranger to scandal. In 1982, she was in the news for an unexpected reason, her incarceration. Loren spent 17 days behind bars after being charged with tax evasion in Italy. Fans all over the globe were shocked to hear about it. Later on, though, Loren clarified that it was unintentional. Her accountant apparently filed it by mistake. Loren seemed unfazed by the event's dramatic nature. She refused to allow her incarceration to damage her work or diminish her public profile. Everyone was amazed by how calm she remained throughout. And that was not the last of it. She was finally vindicated in another long-standing dispute by the Italian Supreme Court in 2013, which was decades later. In 1974, that one was more than her salary. Additionally, she was officially exonerated following nearly 4 decades of legal back and forth. Loren had to deal with more than just financial matters in court. To protect her honor and standing in the community, she took a bold step in 1999. She filed a lawsuit against 79 adult websites that she said had posted altered naked photos of her online. Loren was unfazed and went to court after discovering that these photographs were doctored. She made it clear that she would not tolerate rudeness or exploitation of any kind. Sophia Loren was unfazed and stubborn through it all. It made little difference if they were hearsay or rants on the internet. She retaliated with courage and composure. While these insults may have broken others, Loren's resilience merely added to her fame. She proved that fame has nothing to do with fame and fortune. When life tries to bring you down, sometimes you just have to refuse gracefully. The general public's interest in her miscarriages. Not even Hollywood greats like Sophia Loren are safe from emotional breakdowns. Loren had through 2 heartbreaking miscarriages in the 60s before she gave birth. Each loss was devastating on a physiological and psychological level, as she later disclosed honestly in interviews. She had a near faint on set during her first pregnancy and was transported to the hospital, where she recalled that some of the caregivers had been cold and uncaring. As a star, my existence seemed meaningless, compared with the happiness of the new mothers I'd glimpsed at the hospital, she said. Because Loren was such a public figure, word of her losses quickly spread. Tabloids didn't hesitate to weigh in, blaming her film roles for the miscarriages or speculating about her personal choices. But instead of comfort, the press often brought judgment. Gossip columns and critics teased her for taking on difficult roles or questioned whether she was ready to be a mother. Those rumors gave Loren great emotional distress, making personal sorrow public entertainment. Still, she never quit. Seeing a sympathetic doctor, Loren learned she had a hormonal imbalance and started estrogen therapy. This close monitoring by physicians and months of rigorous bed rest resulted in her third pregnancy being successful. She gave birth to her first son after almost complete bed rest, under strict supervision and with utmost caution. The second son was born by the time she had already won huge admiration for her skill, for her spirit, and for her integrity. The arrival of her children was the very opposite of the cold headlines that had enveloped her losses. Now, looks back on those times with candor. She's written about how much she really wanted to be a mother, reaching her definition of obsession, and about how every miscarriage felt like a personal failure. Those moments transformed her, making her more empathetic and gently redefining her life. In retrospect, everyone can see now how intrusive and unfair the media coverage was, harping on her pain as tattle rather than honoring her grief. All along, Loren remained dignified and unbroken. Her story serves us well by reminding us that even legends can endure silently, and that strength sometimes manifests itself in the most human moments of sorrow. Tension with Jane Mansfield. One of the most well-known and discussed photos of Hollywood's 1950s shows, Sophia Loren delivering a legendary side-eye to Jane Mansfield at an elegant dinner party. But beneath the look of outrage is a tale that's about more than competition and less about rivalry. In 1957, Paramount hosted a lavish party in Beverly Hills to introduce Sophia Loren, already a giant in Europe, into Hollywood. The dressing room was filled with A-list celebrities and photographers. Jane Mansfield then appeared, a star known for her brazen style and publicity stunts. She wore a fitted, low-cut satin gown without a bra. She sat right in front of Loren, and in the photograph, Loren appears to be glaring directly at Mansfield's cleavage. For decades, everyone presumed Loren was disapproving of Mansfield. But in interviews decades later, Loren explained her expression was panic, not disgust. "Where are my eyes? I'm staring at her nipples because I'm afraid they are about to come onto my plate," she said. She described the look as pure fear, worried a wardrobe malfunction would spill across the table during a dinner meant to celebrate her arrival. Although other pictures of that evening depict Loren and Mansfield laughing and socializing, Loren thinks the side-eye photo took a snapshot of the actual sentiment of the situation. It wasn't a competition, merely a star terrified of what she imagined could be a humiliating spectacle. Although one of Hollywood's most renowned photographs is the image of Sophia Loren side-eyeing Jane Mansfield, Loren made it clear she won't sign it. Fans have requested she sign it numerous times over the years, but she simply turns them down. Why did it happen? Out of respect for Mansfield, who died in a fatal car accident in 1967, Loren feels it's not something to be joked about or profited from. As time went on, individuals online, particularly on Reddit, have provided more background information for the image. Some believe Jane Mansfield intentionally leaned forward over the table to upstage everyone, aware that cameras were clicking. They indicate Loren felt awkward, perhaps even slightly intimidated, particularly as Mansfield's dress was provocative and not at all typical of the era. But here's the fascinating part. Other pictures taken that same evening depict the two actresses laughing and talking. It doesn't appear that they loathed one another. Rather, it's as if an uncomfortable moment captured by the camera. Not an actual fight or competition, but that single picture has been published everywhere. Magazines, coffee table books. It's even appeared on lists such as 100 Best Celebrity Photos, and still continues to fuel arguments as to what really occurred that evening. For Sophia Loren, however, the photograph is neither glamorous nor humorous. To her, it is an awkward memory preserved in a moment, not a scandal, not shade, simply a genuine human response captured in an instant. A gist criticism and plastic surgery, speculation. As Sophia Loren aged, people's interest in how she looked only grew stronger. While she accepted growing older with elegance, tabloids and gossip rags weren't as gracious. A few assumed she got plastic surgery, noting her youthful appearance. But Loren remained steadfast. She never had surgery. In the early days of her career, even Hollywood executives urged her to change her face. They believed her characteristic nose was too long. But Loren supposedly answered, "If you want me to change my nose, I'm going back to Pot Swally," demonstrating her strong devotion to being herself. In her 80s, Loren emerged as an icon of timeless self-assurance. When interviewed, she dissuaded people from cosmetic surgery, telling them that it tends to make individuals appear even worse. "You can end up looking worse than what you thought you originally were," she said. Worrying about young actresses jumping into operations without knowing whether their doctor is reliable. Loren was also outspoken about pressure put upon women in show business to be perpetually youthful. She attacked obsession with facelifts, implants, and manufactured beautification, particularly in Hollywood, wondering how artificially gorgeous rituals eclipse genuine existence and personality. Instead, she promotes the idea that true beauty comes from within. Later in life, according to her own account, Loren accepted aging graciously. She refused to struggle with getting older and opted for a healthy existence rather than aggressive repairs. She spoke about how inner strength, family, and respect for oneself means so much more than having a perfect facade. Even with all the rumors, Loren's words held integrity. She reminded women that safety, honesty, and self-worth trump pursuit of a lifelong youth, particularly through dangerous augmentations. She cried out against selfie culture and fame brought about by social media. In my time, an actress's merit and skill was based on her talent, she said, dismissing the concept that one's fame should be based on followers or filters. Nevertheless, media gossip concerning Loren's timeless looks kept influencing public opinion even when unsubstantiated. Others criticized that nods to her innate beauty covered up more insidious, ageist sentiment, reminding us how society tends to evaluate legends on how little they've changed, not who they've become. For Lorenz, grace wasn't about resisting change. It was about growing with grace. Her life shows the transformative power of acceptance and the strength to age on one's own terms. Accusations of favoritism in Italian cinema. Most have whispered that the success of Sophia Loren in Italian films was owed less to her own ability than to her relationship with Carlo Ponti. Ponti, a dominant movie producer and eventually her husband, directed and produced most of her early films. His influence, critics asserted, secured her best roles and denied them to other women in the business. Ponti had a personal stake in Loren's career from the beginning. He renamed her, redirected her image, and cast her in leading roles, recasting Sophia Loren as Sophia Loren. She soon became Italy's top beauty and on-screen presence. Although some professionals in the industry felt resentful about the accelerated elevation, they felt that other good actresses were bypassed because Ponti made her movies under big logos, his own company, and international co-productions. One of the most debated examples is Loren's breakthrough with Two Women, 1960. Ponti secured the film rights and orchestrated production so that Loren would play the lead. Originally, the renowned actress Anna Magnani was supposed to lead, while Loren would play her daughter. However, Ponti's vision and eventually director Vittorio De Sica's decision shifted the roles. That move sparked talk that Ponti used his clout to reshape the casting in Loren's favor. Critics also suggested that the close relationship between Loren and Ponti raised issues of boundaries. With their professional and romantic relationship so close, some believed it suppressed opportunity and diversity in Italian film. Other women were unable to cut through while Ponti supported Loren in important films and foreign distributions. On the other hand, Loren's performances were respected worldwide. 17 David Di Donatello Awards, an Oscar, and international recognition, which further made it more difficult to say her success was nepotistic. Loren herself would frequently belittle the charges. She praised Ponti for his guidance, listing him as the man who constructed a solid world from a mess, but maintaining that her success was due to hard work and dedication and not favoritism or exploitation. Despite Loren's international popularity, Italian critics still argued. Some averred that she succeeded in a system favoring one actress. Others that her popularity provided a window of opportunity for Italian film overseas. Among these, personalities such as Gina Lollobrigida and Monica Vitti were commonly pitted against and sometimes contrasted with Loren's success. Ultimately, the narrative around favoritism raises complex questions. Was Loren's rise unfairly engineered, or was it a partnership of talent and promotion? The truth likely falls somewhere in between. Ponti's backing played a role, but it was Loren's skill, charisma, and dedication that turned projects into lasting legacies. Loren's regretful film with Marlon Brando, There's One Individual Sophia Loren, went on to say was the origin of one of her greatest professional regrets, and it's not a director or producer, but Marlon Brando, who starred alongside her in Charlie Chaplin's 1967, A Countess from Hong Kong. What was supposed to be a glamorous reunion of titans ended up instead a painful experience for her. The movie, directed and written by Chaplin, co-starred Loren and Brando with each other. It was Chaplin's final feature and anticipation was high, but off-screen, tension hung in the air. Brando, infamous for his brooding method acting and obstinate nature, allegedly clashed with Chaplin over what Brando referred to as harsh treatment and strict direction. Rumors circulated that he crossed professional boundaries, once allegedly groping her during a scene without permission. She confronted him, demanding it never happen again. He quietly apologized, but the damage was done. The emotional strain stayed with her long after filming ended. During filming, Brando famously defied Chaplin's autocratic directing style. Chaplin even performed scenes himself to demonstrate to actors what he required. That infuriated Brando, who was reportedly appalled to call Chaplin a fearsomely cruel man and alleged the director unfairly tore into his own son, Sidney Chaplin. Loren, meanwhile, was sandwiched between two forceful icons, one Brando, one Chaplin, but she was the most compromised of the three. Chaplin's artistic approach, though admired by some, didn't please Brando. He tried to leave the project entirely, being convinced to remain only by his peers, tarnishing further the atmosphere on set. The project limped into delays and emotional tension. For Loren, the outcome wasn't only a bad movie. It was an artistic and personal setback. She subsequently disclosed that she didn't derive pride or satisfaction from the experience. The on-screen chemistry was strained and icy because between scenes she felt belittled, disrespected, and emotionally marshaled into submission. She suggested in interviews and autobiographical accounts that collaborating with Brando, an actor the world considered to be a genius, made her cynical. It wasn't the performance or the critics that she bore the shame for. It was the lack of control she had over her own experience. When the cameras finally stopped, she felt drained and unwilling to ever go back into the narrative. Years later, Loren would look back and say that the collaboration cost her more than just creative fulfillment. It drained her self-esteem on set. She never looked back nostalgically at the film, and for good reason. What was meant to be a milestone experience instead became a deep-seated regret to have been put through emotional discomfort and made to feel silenced in the hands of someone she was being asked to trust. Ultimately, Sophia Loren's life is much more than a story of celebrity and center stage. It's one of strength, of ability, and of the decisions women must make, sometimes reluctantly, sometimes merely to survive. She came up from adversity, shattered obstacles, and taught the world what it meant for beauty and courage to originate from genuine power. But amidst the accolades and acceptances, there is one movie she can do without. The recollection isn't of the scenes she filmed or the role she portrayed. It's of the way working on it altered something within her. Her confidence, her sense of mastery, her love for acting. For a woman who'd built an international career on grit and honesty, that experience was a betrayal of her own integrity. That regret, surprisingly, never goes to artistic success. She never regretted the role itself or the talent she brought to it. She regretted not feeling as much power as she thought she had at it. She regretted swallowing discomfort and pretending everything was all right when it wasn't. And most of all, she regretted not leaving sooner when her gut told her that the working conditions were off. It's not often that an artist of her standing publicly avows regret, but Loren did in a quiet, contemplative, and self-imposed manner. She did not declare a scandal or irrevocably sully her reputation. Rather, she allowed the truth to surface in interviews and moments of introspection, talking about how one moment could eclipse hundreds of achievements. That candor deepened public love for her. It humanized her. Sophia Loren today is not only revered for her on-screen history, but also for her integrity. She proved to generations that even goddesses can utter, "That was too much." She taught the world that self-esteem is more important than any salary or billing in the cast. Her only regret about that film is a lasting lesson. Sometimes the most iconic moments are the ones that don't end up in the final edit. The moments when you pick your pride over looking elegant. And in doing that, Sophia Loren reaffirmed why she doesn't just belong in the history of films, but in the history of living with intention. And there you have it. The untold story of Sophia Loren's biggest regret. A moment that reminds us all that even legends carry scars behind the scenes. If you found this video insightful, please give it a thumbs up. It really helps us out. And if you love stories that get deep into the real lives of Hollywood icons, don't forget to subscribe to the channel. We've got plenty more coming your way. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you in the next one.